What's up, dude?
Same shit.
You made it.
Yeah, I made the long trek from Redmond. It was a trying affair.
I got you in here finally. You're like the busiest dude with the most random work schedule.
Oh, yeah, my work schedule fucking sucks.
It is gnarly.
It's just, yeah, that's what makes it difficult. So
difficult
work schedule and then, family and all that. And it's just like I have these small windows. And whatever I can fit into them, I just have to try and jam everything in.
I'm always bugging you, come to this car meet, come to this Cars and Coffee, come do a podcast.
Oh my god, dude, the Cars and Coffee thing bugs the shit out of me because it's I could go, I'd like to, because there's stuff there and that I would like to see in person, and there's people there that I know that go all the time.
Yeah,
and it's just I work night shift, and they start at 8 o'clock, and it's well, I'm still probably asleep for another hour.
The real nerds are there at 7.
Yeah, no,
getting all the good spots and shit. And it's always the dudes with the worst cars that get there early.
No, I can't do that. I cannot get moving that early. It's not going to work.
That's a bummer, dude, because I would love to see that Mk1 Jetta at that Cars and Coffee all the time. Dude, introduce yourself, man.
Well, I'm Colin Visage. I'm a nobody. I like cars, and unfortunately, particularly the Volkswagen theme.
You're somebody to me, dude.
All right, well, I appreciate that.
Volkswagen enthusiast, dude. Yeah, no, I remember the first time we met in person was that Dubs and Donuts thing.
Yeah, the one that you did. Yeah.
Yeah, but I forgot how I got. I must have just discovered your Instagram page or something, and then was what? You're in Redmond? I'm in Bend. We need to be homies because you have a rad car.
Yeah, I think because you know Matt.
Yeah,
and so I've known Matt for I don't even know how many years. I've known him for a long time. Never been super close, but we know who each other are, and we've hung out before and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I think I had seen him post stuff from Cars and Coffee of your car, and I was oh, cool, another Volkswagen guy's in town. That's cool. It'll be cool to see if he is legit or not, because there's always some questionables, and then it kind of just evolved from that. So
no, dude. And I looked up your page, and I was like, dude, this dude's got some sick shit. Not only the Mk1 Jetta that you have now, Coupe. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you also had a slammed Passat, right?
Yeah, I had a B4 wagon.
Was that on air or was that static?
No, static. No.
Yeah, that thing was low, dude.
You'll come to find I'm not an air person. It's a static. Static is static, and that's all.
That works.
So, but yeah, that's that. So unfortunately, so it was 2 years ago. Driving back from Leavenworth, and which is a local, Pacific Northwest.
Drive. Yeah, a big one. That's coming up pretty soon, right?
June, yeah. Me and my friends were coming back. Stopped at Biggs, just for piss break, snacks, shit like that. Because it's a longer drive for us from down here.
Yeah.
And standing in line to fucking pay for my shit, and my buddy comes walking in and he says, "Hey, somebody just backed into your car." And
shit. That was the Passat?
Yeah.
No.
Great. So, yeah, I walk out there. Some older couple, they had it was a newer F-150. Has backup cameras, fucking parking sensors, all that shit. And they still somehow managed to back into my car. And of course, they couldn't have backed into it,
any better way?
A foot further forward, and it would have been into the rear door, and I could have just gotten a fucking door to replace it. Nope, rear quarter panel completely smashed in.
Dude.
And of course, it's I'm looking at it, and I'm well, it's totaled. There's nothing, nobody's going to find value in this, you know? And so I had to get under it and jack it up because the lip had been squashed onto the fucking wheel. So I had to jack it up just to drive it home because there's no way to move it basically. And
that's such a bummer, dude.
Yeah. So, and like I said, it ended up, insurance totaled, had to argue with them for 6 months to try and get the value up and all that. And
damn, dude.
I look back on it now and it's I should have just stuck it out and like went and found somebody to fix it after they paid me for it, you know. And because I kept it still because it had a bunch of stuff on it that I wanted to keep.
Okay.
And like now I look back at it and it's like it was like the best fucking driving car. It was easily one of the cleanest B4s I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was looking your Instagram and I was checking out the old pictures you had posted of it. I was like, damn, even the interior.
Yeah,
I was like,
the
dude,
interior.
Damn,
so
this thing was super
it had
clean.
like one little on the driver's seat bottom. There was like one little like 2-inch long tear in the bottom of it, and it's just like, and that was it. Everything else was there. Everything was just clean as can be. I was technically the second owner. The guy I got it from, he got it because he works at like a service shop or whatever, and he got it from the old guy that was the original owner, and he knew he had too many projects and put it up for sale.
Dude, you come up on these like 1 and 2 owner cars a lot, dude.
I don't know how. I mean,
you always score them clean. I'm like 30 owners deep in like everything, you know?
Well, I mean, it just because that's the 2 recent ones doesn't mean that that's always been the case. That's for sure. So
well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
The color of that thing, that before, I used to hate those darker green colors for some reason. Now I'm like in love with them.
It's my all-time favorite color for 4 cars is dark green. Anything dark green, like even like the new GTIs that are that dark green. Oh,
the RS4s.
Yeah,
dude,
they're gorgeous. I love dark green.
I know. I used to hate that color. I don't know why. I used to think it was like such an old man color when I was younger, and yeah, dude. Nowadays, I just flip out about those colors. I love them, dude. Like, do you remember what color that was?
God, I'm so bad at that.
I wonder if it was like that Mark III Jetta.
I want to say it might have had emerald in the name. I don't know. I can't say for sure. Like, I'm not that guy that like has every color for every year memorized.
Neither am I.
Anything, so
I want to be. I want to like know every like vague color like off the top of my head, but dude, I get lost.
I mean, I know the obvious ones. Like I know a Monty green car when I see it. You know, like that type of thing.
Mola yellow.
Yeah,
Ginser, Windsor blue.
But it's like there's the more simple colors that they change the name on every 4 years or whatever. It's like I'm never gonna remember that.
Yeah, dude. Some people do though, and they get super mad. Like those real nerdy VW nerds. Yeah. I'll be like, I've made it a couple of mistakes on Instagram on the FYEAH Volkswagens. I just post like a caption. Captions are so fucking hard to do, like, and try to keep them fresh. And I posted a picture of a caddy, and I was just riffing, and I was like, baby blue caddy. And someone was like, yo, dude, it's this color. And I'm like, well, all right, dude, I'll fix it.
I wasn't saying that was a VW color. I was just saying it's baby blue.
Yeah,
like
I was just
general
riffing,
terms,
dude. But I like fixed the caption and like was like, sorry, bro. But I know people get like super crazy about it.
Yeah.
I wish I knew all the colors.
I mean, yeah, it'd be cool information to have, I guess, like just to be able to store it up there. But dude, you can't use it to weaponize it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know. It's like that Volkswagen knowledge clout you run into with like some dudes, and I don't want to be a dick or anything, but like sometimes the dudes who do that have like the worst cars. You know what I mean?
You took the words out of my mouth. I'll just put that there because yes,
they're like so stuck up about certain things, and then it's like, what are you doing to your car though?
Yeah, well, and they've got this piece of crap, and then they'll take you to look at it or whatever to like try and brag about it, and they'll just brag about because it has these things. Yeah. That's why he has it. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't change that. Yeah, it's garbage, dude. Yeah. Like my car that has, you know, the most common color and the most common interior, at least like I've tried to make it look like I take care of it, and like I've done some things to it. Right. Like
it's just not like a bunch of beat rare parts.
Yeah, like oh, cool, you know, good for you. You know, you've got a busted cami lip on it. Like I get that the cami lips are fucking rare, but like yours is blown into pieces. Like how is that any better than me not having
one? Hilarious, dude. I love those dudes. I'll walk around with them and be like, all right, bro, cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah. It's like I know more about Volkswagens than you do. It's like, all right.
I'm sure you probably do. Like I'm not saying I did.
Dude, that's awesome. Let's get into your Volkswagen history a little bit. And dude, I don't know if you noticed, but I know you're a stout dude. You're a dark beer dude. It's kind of early now, but I told you I'd promised I'd get you.
Well, I mean, it's as they
It's
say,
noon now.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
And they are cold, so I'll give
There
you
you
that.
go.
So,
I'm gonna
yeah,
pull
I'll
out.
take it.
Dude, I'm always super embarrassed when I have to say this, but like, I'm like one of those gluten dudes.
Oh, so you're like a ciders and hard seltzers guy, huh?
Well, dude, I love craft beer. I used to brew my own craft beer. I used to be a huge craft beer nerd. And then I was like, having all these health issues and shit. And then, well, it turns out I have a very severe gluten intolerance, and I did nothing but drink craft beer like every day.
And that'll do it to you.
6-pack IPAs gone. And so there's some cool like gluten-free craft beer now, like that actually tastes like beer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting back into it. But yeah, I've been a cider guy for a little while. I'm just kind of embarrassed about it. Cheers, bro.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you, man. I told you I'd hook you up with some beers if you came through and
way
did
it works.
this.
That's sufficient payment for me.
That's what I'm gonna have to brag everybody with. Like, what's your vice, dude? Someone's gonna be like, black tar Mexican heroin. I'm like, all right, well, if that's what it takes to do the podcast.
That's a steep price to pay right there.
So let's get into your Volkswagen history a little bit, dude. Like, what got you into the dubs, man?
Okay. So the long end of it is my dad was a Volkswagen guy, like from the start. So was his dad. His dad was buying brand new buses.
Oh, sick.
Back, when they were new. He was, and my dad has, all kinds of pictures and stories and stuff about buying them, taking them cross town, cross country and shit with him and his brother and his dad. And
Sick.
And so he grew up in vans, and not to say like he lived in the van. I'm just saying like he grew up with vans.
Right. So it was like T1s, T2s, like air cooled.
Yeah. So he had split windows. He had bay windows. Like that was what he grew up in. One of his favorite stories to tell is when he went to get his driver's license. He showed up in the bus.
Nice.
And him and his brother were into motorcycles and stuff too. And he had a Honda 50. And he had the Honda 50 stuffed in the middle of the bus, like, pull open the bay window and threw it in there. And so it was just in the bus when he went to take his driver's test. So he takes his driver's test, he passes, and the instructor sitting next to him, this is forever ago, so it was a lot more lax back then.
Right.
Looks at him and he says, "So you ride motorcycles?" And my dad goes, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, do you want to get your endorsement too?" And Dad's like,
on a little 50?
Well, yeah. And he goes, "Okay, well, yard that thing out of there." And pulls it out of the back, and then he says, "Okay," gives him some rudimentary route that he can just watch from the parking lot.
Dude.
He rides it around, comes back. "All right, got your endorsement too." Like that's the end of it. So it's like bus kicked in right there. You drive any other car there, you're not going to have a freaking Honda 50 in the back of it.
That's sick. That's such a great story.
But yeah, so he always had those, and then he really got away from the whole Volkswagen thing. Like he got really into choppers and stuff like that.
Rad.
And he never like committed back to having Volkswagen stuff, even though he would talk about he always wanted to. And he never would. And so here I am, growing up and getting close to driving age. And I'm like, okay, I might be able to, like, I like Volkswagens. It'd be cool to kind of, maybe I can get some action on this, And I remember my buddy at school, his older brother, who was like a total like ska punk guy. Like he's just like looked like your typical ska like guy.
Rude
like
boy.
Like he should have been in a band. Like I think he was, but I didn't know him well enough.
It was a Mighty Mighty Boss Tones cover band.
Right, yeah. But he had a black and it was a Clipper kit cabbie, and it had like those like era perfect, like I look back on it now and see them as the era like perfect Momo split 5-spoke wheels, which I don't know what the name of them is, but and it was lowered, but it wasn't like super low or anything.
Right, it was low for the time.
Yeah, this was well before like people
Stance
were scraping everywhere, you know. And I always loved it, and I'd always point it out to my dad, like, hey, there's that Volkswagen that I really like, and my dad's like, yeah, those are pretty cool, and it's like, okay, kind of get the talk going. And then it turned into like, okay, time to get my first car. I tried to like do some kind of Volkswagen thing. Nope, didn't work. I ended up getting a Mazda. I got a fucking Mazda B2000 pickup truck. Like, okay, whatever. It's my first car. It's fine. I bought it for $50. Like
$50.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it was my uncle's car that he didn't
right.
use anymore, and so like it was like my grandma made him sell it to me for $50.
Rad.
So okay, cool. All right. So I've got this little truck. I lowered it. Just typical, like, high school shithead skateboarder shit that, like, stickers fucking all over the back window and all that,
Rad.
And I had that for a couple of years in high school. And I, unfortunately, I think I have the same disease as my dad where, for the longest time, I had a really hard time sticking with a car.
I have that problem now.
Well, no, you stick with them. You just have multiple. That's a little
I'll
different.
like get rid of one and replace it.
Yeah. So, I'm not even through high school, and this is my first car, and I'm already like, I want a different car. Like, I'm over this one. I need a different car. And so I start looking again, and it's like, okay, I know I like the Volkswagen stuff. I still want a Volkswagen. And I start finding them, just kind of, and this is back in the, before internet.
How old were you? Like, what year was this, would you say? Let's put a time frame on it.
Time frame. I don't know. I'm bad with this.
Late 90s?
No, I think I'm younger than that. I'm younger than that. Yeah.
How old are you?
See, now I'm bad at this too.
I'm 39.
Okay, I'm 33.
Okay.
So I'm a little okay. So I'm a little ways behind you, but
okay.
So I was 16.
Pre-Facebook Marketplace.
Oh yeah,
you had to actually like search for.
There was no Craigslist. There was nothing. It was like my dad's thing was he would come home every week with a new Auto Trader.
Nice.
Like, remember the Auto Trader?
Fuck
like
yeah, dude. Like even the classifieds and like the
in the newspapers
and shit. Yeah.
So. Like he'd come home with Auto Traders, and then his thing he'd flip through these things, and he would like dog ear, pointing at certain cars that he'd never fucking buy, and so and then I'd get through and I'd flip through them afterwards, and then I'd start pointing out to him, here's a Rabbit, here's a Mark II, like and even then like when Mark IIs were still cheap, like they weren't like. The Volkswagen stuff didn't go up in value yet. Like everything was still like cheap. I was like, Dad, these are cheap cars that I actually like and would like to get. And
hook it up, Dad.
And like it still wouldn't happen. I remember freaking going to, so I grew up in the Valley. Mm-hmm. Like we're in Central Oregon for everybody listening.
Central Oregon.
And I grew up in the Valley, so like outside of Portland by about an hour to hour and a half, depending on traffic. And so we go into Newburgh, which is like you're a skateboarder. You might know the Newburgh skate park. Like I live close to Newburgh.
Okay, sweet.
So going to Newburgh, we were like doing regular stuff, like he's running errands or whatever. And there was this place that was like an old silo that it changed hands multiple times, and it would have various businesses in there, and at one point there was like a Volkswagen guy there. I don't know if it ever had like he was like a business or anything like that. I just know that there was Volkswagens parked there all the time, and like he'd have a bay door open on it or something. You could see in there, and there's just fucking junk everywhere. And it's like, okay,
you just caught an eye of this stuff. Just like being in the area?
Just driving by. Sick. There's always Volkswagens parked out there. Sometimes there's for sale signs in them. Oh. Okay. So we drove by it, and there's a black Wolfsburg Mark II sitting there, just a little two-door GTI. And I'm like, oh, okay. I saw it when we drove by. And so we get to wherever my dad's trying to go. And I say, hey, there was a Mark II over there. And I'm sure I didn't say a Mark II. I'm sure I said, oh, look, there's a GTI over there. Because, I didn't even know what a Mark II or Mark I was at that point, probably. Can we go look at it? Yeah, okay, whatever. We'll stop by there on the way back. Okay. So we drive by there, stop in, look at it. And it's I mean, it's pretty rough. I mean, the body was in good shape, but like you looked inside and there's like all the plastic panels and shit are just thrown in there and all that. So it was something that the guy had obviously taken apart for his purposes and then like made it as whole as he wanted to then resell, even though
maybe grab some shit out of it, some interior pieces, grab some stuff.
And it was cheap. It was like, I don't remember how much it was, but I remember it being cheap. Nice. And I said, I'd be interested in that. And my dad is so particular, and he's just, no, that's not the car for you. He's like, you want to look at some other ones? We'll look at some other ones, but that one's not for you. Like, all right, fine. Okay, at least he's open to me now, like looking at some other ones.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, not even that long goes by, and Auto Trader, there's a, like, again, don't know the colors, but it was not like the real bright red Rabbit, but like the kind of like burnt orange red looking.
Is that like Mars red?
It might have, no, it wasn't, because that's like orange.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it had been resprayed or something, the wrong color. I don't know, but it was like a burnt orange, burnt red color.
Still sick for a Mark 1.
Yeah, cool little color, cool little car. It was obviously a Volkswagen guy that had it, because it had like that. Remember the old, because it was a CIS car. Mm-hmm. You remember the old, like the ABD big bore intake for your CIS pipe, you know? It had one of those on it and shit. And like it was lowered, so it probably just had like a cup kit or something like that. But it looked really clean, looked pretty cool. And I was like, hey, I want to go look at this. Can we go look at that? And because it was just it was like in Hillsborough, and we're not that far from there. I was like, oh, can we go look at it? And I was like, yeah, this weekend we'll go look at it. I was like, okay. And then, eventually we didn't even go look at it. And next thing I know, I fucking show up to school, and my buddy fucking John at school bought it, and he drives in, comes driving in it. And I'm just like, I looked at that car. Like I was going to go and look at it. He's like, yeah, it's pretty cool, And I think to this day, it's still sitting in front of his house, because it had this habit of burning fuel pumps out. And I can't say I would know why. Mm-hmm. But it sat there in front of his house forever, and he'd put a fuel pump in it, and he'd drive it around for like 3-4 months, and then it'd burn another one out, and then it would sit there again for a year or something, and then eventually get back to it, and it's just, and I over and over again I told my dad, even like well after I had like moved out, I'm out of high school and all that, and it still was sitting there, and I'd tell him, like, go down there and see if like they'll sell it for nothing, because it's been there forever. Like, why not just see? And he won't sell it. He just won't sell it. He wants to keep it. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. But like, could you do something with it? But I thought that was pretty funny that he, that was my second chance at a Volkswagen. Still didn't get one. And then I started kind of molding into Audis and pre-96. Something about those cars. I love pre-96 Audis. All of those. Yeah. Like that is like the heyday of Audi. Like, okay, the newer Audis, like there's some cool ones. I'm not saying that there's not, like, people be offended. But pre-96 is like where my brain is. Like I love all of those pre-96 cars. Rad. And I found a 5000.
Nice.
It was a turbo, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I know these things are cool. Here I am, high school guy, like, oh, those things will be fast. and I find it. I show my dad, and I'm like, hey, like, I want to go look at this. And he said, okay, well, you call him and see what he's got going on. He gives me this list of questions, typical old man, like, stuff that he wants me to ask about.
Service history, service records.
Like, how many miles does it have? Has it been rebuilt? I call the guy. I'm talking to him. I go through, rattle off the whole list, set up a time and a place to meet this guy.
Nice.
And then my dad says, we're not going to go look at that. Like, excuse me? Like,
what are you doing to me, dude?
You just had me do all this and set this up. Now you're going to have me stand the dude up? Like, what is that? So needless to say, I didn't get a 5000.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So, and the real downer is what I ended up with was a car that he liked, because he liked the people that he was talking to about it. And so I ended up with a fucking 97 Ford Probe.
Oh no!
And I'm just
not
like,
a Probe.
And I'm like, what am I? What?
It's like, a car, dude.
It's a car. It was my second car. Like, and I'm just, and it wasn't my choice still. Like, it was like, I drove it. It was fine. Like, and my dad, you know, and it's like, okay, like I got to the point where I just gave up with him and was like, okay, whatever. We'll just get whatever car for me that you think is best. and then I just like, and I was like, I'm going to fucking lay it on him now, because this is 2 cars. First car, fine. I don't get a choice in that. But the second car, it's like, okay, I'm like, I have a little bit of flavor now that I want to like expand on.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some stuff to the probe. Like, there wasn't a whole lot. There never has been, but I did a few things to it. And it like I'm thinking, okay, I'm showing him I have an interest in like moving things along, like doing things to cars.
Yeah.
And eventually I get to the point where I start telling him, like, I never wanted this car. Like,
fuck this car,
like
Dad.
and I'd even have to like, I'd like talk to my mom and I'd say, can you like tell him like that like this isn't what I'm interested in? Like, I've been trying it, like, for a Volkswagen guy.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get him to let me get a Volkswagen for my entire high school career. And he won't let me buy a fucking Volkswagen. Like, what is his problem? And like, I mean, I see now why, obviously, because you know, because
it takes work, dude.
if you're a Volkswagen person and you try and tell me that you love them and they're like the best thing that you've ever had, it's like, no, you're fucking lying to me. They're the worst fucking thing to
you
ever
just
have.
like torture. That's why you're into Volkswagens.
Exactly. Like, it's not, it is 100% not a situation of that they're the best fucking cars ever. It is, they're the fucking worst cars, but for some reason we keep coming back. And I don't know why, but I'm going to.
Dude, that's so funny that you say that, because I have a buddy, he shall remain nameless, but he'll know who he is if he hears this. We were at a coffee shop the other day, and he's into like Evos, STIs. He's got a couple of them. And me and my buddy Chris were talking about Volkswagens, and he's kind of like, I just don't get the appeal, dude. Like, I don't get it. And,
Yeah,
you know,
I don't either.
I was like, dude, like, you know, for the older stuff, it's just like, you know, part of the fun is just that, like, they always have issues, and it's a part hunt. Like, you need the stupidest little thing, you know what I mean? It takes you 2 months to find it, to get it, and you probably overpaid for it.
Yep.
But that's like part of it, right? You get that, you find that like door card or fucking stupid part that you need, and you get
B4
it.
cup holder for your Passat.
Yeah, and you get it, and it's like, fuck yes, this took 6 months or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the fun of it. And I was like explaining it to him, and he was just like, yeah, no, I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'd like to order my parts and have them
It's like,
you know, show up on my doorstep in a week. I don't want to look for it.
yeah. I was like, I'm gonna butcher this, but I think I made the like the comparison of like being tattooed and liking Volkswagens. I'm like, it's like getting tattooed, dude. It's like you sit down and 10 minutes into it, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah,
this is
sucks.
the worst shit ever.
But man, it looks cool after.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's see. The 5,000 got to the probe, and then for some reason I bought a Jeep after that.
That's
like,
not a bad.
Like, I'm not like I'll just like, you know, I'll just skip to that. You know, like
You're not only into Volkswagens. 'Cause
No,
you got,
I'm
like other cool shit.
I'm a
right
total.
now.
I'm a
You're just
car guy.
dude.
Like,
Yeah.
and like I was saying, like, I have the same issue as my dad, where it's just I like a lot of things, and so I want to try a lot of different cars and see like what I really like. And somehow I keep buying fucking Volkswagens, and you know, some other stuff here and there that I keep or don't keep or whatever. And so it wasn't even like the right Jeep. It was just a Jeep.
Was
It was
it an XJ?
no, it was a YJ,
Oh, okay.
but it was an early YJ, so I didn't even have the 4-liter. I had the 4.2 carbureted, like, which is like, you know, a bulletproof motor, but God, it was fucking gutless. It just was terrible on gas. Good God, terrible on gas.
You just smell that fuel coming out of that thing.
Yeah, no matter what you do, like, I even did like the carb upgrade and shit like that, and nothing helped. It was just, it was what it was, whatever. I got to drive it around with no top and no doors, you know, like that was the thing, you know. But so I had that for a while, and then when I first started like meeting people from this area, because this is all still when I was living in the valley. I started meeting people in this area, and like here I am out of high school, like trying to figure out what I'm gonna fucking do. I'm going to Shemeketa in there in Salem, like doing some classes, stuff like that. And I start talking to people down here, and I catch wind of this guy that somebody I met down here. It's a buddy of his, or he worked for him, or something like that. I think it was he worked for him, but he's got this old 4000 sitting in his yard.
Ooh,
I'm like,
back to the old Audis.
Here we are. We're pre-96. Okay, cool. And he's like, I'll give you his number. He hasn't driven it or in a long time, and he's like, I think he wants to sell it, and he goes, it was like cheap. I'm like, okay, cool. This sounds right up my alley. I'm a fucking college kid. I've got next to no money. You know, I've already got a car. Here's my chance to get my first project car. You know, and so I call the guy up, talking to him, and he's a pretty cool guy. Like he's like, yeah, you know, I just I don't use it. I'm like, I'm ready to sell it. Okay, cool. He says $800.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, 800. That sounds good. How about 500? And he goes, you know, I get what you're doing. And I was what do you mean? Huh?
Trying to wheel and deal, bro.
What do you mean? He's like, look, I'm not gonna argue over a couple $100 for an $800 car. Come down here with $500. It's yours.
Nice.
I was like, okay, cool.
It worked.
So show up down there, you know, and it's just this faded red, which you'll come to find out I hate red cars. Faded red, whatever. I didn't care at that point. You know, I'm like, okay, cool. It's a 4000. And the sneaky Pete was somebody at some point before he owned it had turboed it.
Oh.
So the 4000s were not turbo cars. And so I start getting excited when I catch wind that it's a turboed car again.
Yeah, those are 5-cylinder NA, right? Yeah.
And again, not knowing a whole lot, I'm like stoked on it. I'm like, cool.
Yeah,
he's got a turbo swap
5-cylinder
4000.
turbo.
Like this is gonna be
Sick.
sweet.
It's a rally car.
So I get it started. You know, tires are just weather checked. They're horrible. Had very period correct Borbet type T's. Nice. I think they were the 6-spoke ones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. This could be really cool. Get inside. All of like the pieces of trim that you could pull off, like, you know, dash surrounds and the vents and shit, for some reason they're painted yellow.
Oh.
And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, it's a red car.
It's Ronald McDonald car.
It's got a black interior and it's painted yellow inside. Why is this? How many hot VWs were you looking at? You know, and just taking the colors off the cover of your VW trends or whatever, and just plastering it into the car. I'm like, whatever, $500.
Yeah.
You know, we pull it up on the trailer because, you know, of course my dad's like, you're not driving that home. So we pull it up on the trailer, tow it to the valley, and I start getting to work on it. You know, I get it running well, and I just start driving it. I'm like, well, I'm going to drive it. I'm going to enjoy it, you know, and fuck, that thing ripped. It was pretty sweet. And the
turbo was good. It was a good solid kit. Just because this dude hacked the interior was no.
No, I'm good on that. So things are fine. You know, I'm enjoying it. I'm driving it around. Cool. You know, it looks like a pile, but it pulls pretty hard. It definitely surprises people, like driving around Salem, like,
nice,
you know, doing kid shit, you know.
Right.
And
not street racing.
No, never. Always on a closed course. And so I'm driving it. I can't remember what I was doing, but I was driving it back home. All of a sudden, just everything fucking turns off. Whole car, like everything shuts off. Like I'm on the road, like I'm no shoulder. I'm pull it off some way I can. Can't get it started. Nothing will fucking get things started.
Oh damn.
Okay, well, and the girl I'm seeing at the time is with me, and she's fucking pissed off because, you know, my stupid car broke and it looks like a piece of shit. So she's already assuming it's a piece of shit. No surprise it breaks down, right? So I'm like, okay, well, we'll go back to my house. We're a couple blocks. We weren't that far from my house. Lucky. I'll get the Jeep and I'll just strap it back home if you can steer it. She's already fucking pissed off that she's got to dead steer this car back home.
Right.
So do that, get it home. And then I held on to it for quite a while. Still, it never ran.
Okay.
It never ran again. I ended up having to tow it back down here, like on a flatbed, because I moved down here.
Uh-huh.
And it still didn't run. And so then I took it to a shop here in town, Mountain View Imports. The guy that used to run it, his son runs it now. His name's Hugh. Great dude. Nice. That Mountain View Imports, I have nothing but great things to say about that place. Sweet. Great fucking place.
They like VW Audis? Or
it's European. It's
Rad.
It's a European place.
Nice.
They've been in Bend for forever.
Awesome.
And they've always been super cool. Like I said, the Hugh's son runs the place now, and as far as I know, still a fucking great place.
Awesome.
So I take it into him, and I'm like, hey, it stopped running on me. Like when I was driving, I can't figure out what's wrong with it. Can you at least diagnose it, and then I'll figure it out from there, right? So he's got it for probably a week, and he's doing stuff to it to try and figure it out. And then he finally pulls the timing cover off. Timing belt broke. Interference engine. It's blown up.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye.
So there goes that. And at that point, I had already had all these plans where I was like, I'm gonna go like balls to the wall on this. I was talking to 034. I was going to get standalone for it. Like
their EFI?
Yeah.
They're doing their EFI.
And I was going to, and it was when that was pretty new. Like Javed, the guy that runs the place, he still had the 80. Like one of the first, like his first car that like was to show his shit.
When I lived in the Bay, they were in Fremont, and I had a buddy who had a shop next to them.
Yeah.
And they would come and shoot the shit all the time. And there's this dude, Chris. I think he drove a ton of their cars, but they were like Euro tuners back in the day. And I think they had an Audi 90 that was like turboed. It was like 900 horsepower. And it was like
the
dark green.
Oh, no, the dark green.
I think it was a coupe.
Because Javed's main car, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I hope I am. It was that dark red 90 4-door.
I remember that car.
So that was like the first car that they used as like test subject number one. And that was a 800 wheel horsepower car.
Dude, they were
stock
making
block.
Stupid Audis.
Like that thing was awesome. And that was what really like got me like, okay, I've got a fucking 5-cylinder. I know it's only a 10 valve. His is a 20 valve, but the 10 valves you can still do cool stuff with.
Yeah.
So like I had ordered EFI. I had like all this stuff. Like I'm going to start building this thing. It's going to be cool because Hugh's going to figure out what's wrong with it and I'm going to be good to go. Timing belt's broke. Shit. So then I have to, revert, and I'm like, hey, timing belt's broke on the car, and like I have no reason to get EFI for it now. Yeah, the timing belt's broke. Like, what I'm gonna put EFI on a car that has a motor that's not gonna work.
Exactly.
So I start finally doing research about shit. Turns out it's a JT block, which is the non-turbo motor that someone had put a turbo on. It wasn't even a turbo motor. So this is I'm fresh into this shit. I don't half know what I'm doing. I just know I want to do these things. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, I don't even have the right motor anyway. And so I'm like, fuck, man. Like, of course I get the car that doesn't have the right shit to do what I want to do, And so then it just is this long process. I find a dude that's got a 10 valve turbo motor from a 5,000 that's low miles. Nice. Cool. Buy that. Gonna swap it in and just do a bunch of extra shit. And that guy is still around. He still lives in, I think it's Sutherland. Is it Sutherland? Silverton. I don't know. It's somewhere out like around Salem. I can't remember what the town name is, but he still lives up there. Jetta is his
shout out.
Is his handle. He's a great dude. He's fucking Audi guy, like through and through.
Nice.
And so he, as far as I knew, just from the forums, like the Fortitude forum, which was the Audi, it was the
Vortex.
It was the Vortex for Audi, but it was a lot of real snooty
a lot of Audi guys.
Yeah. So I found him on there, and then that's how I got the motor. And so then I start this motor swap, like I did fucking lightweight flywheel, like a big fucking hard clutch. It was, I mean, it was a sprung, but it was a.
So you just kept at it on the 4000.
I just
like,
kept
"Fuck
going.
it,
I was
man.
like, you
I'm
know
just
what?
gonna
Like like this is my project car. I might as well, like, it's a project car, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I keep going, and then I sold the Jeep, got a Mark II GTI. It was red again, and again, these are the only 2 red cars I've ever had, and it's because I hate red. and so this GTI was like, it was a small bumper Mark II.
Nice.
So it just had the 8-valve CIS garbage, and I was like, it's just a daily. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got that, and I'm dailying that around while I'm working on this car. And I guess I better divulge the other information. The reason I moved down here was
to Bend
to Central
Salem.
Oregon from the
Valley.
The Valley was I started working for a company that a lot of people have problems with. And I realized now, or not now, but I realized after I stopped working there, why. I worked for Bahn Brenner for a long time.
Oh,
so
they're like they're legendary here in Bend.
Yeah.
Well, I obviously lived in California, but when you look like back in the day when I was into the Volkswagen scene, they were pretty big, dude. They're superchargers, their products, and they were like up here. So okay,
that was the thing. Like they were doing the twin screw chargers for cars, and the concept was to compete with the turbo kits that like Eurosport and Kinetic had.
But they were a big deal back in that day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were a big deal. And that's why I thought it was cool, because like I was like, I had done like an automotive program at Chemeketa, and that was like potentially my first job. I was like, I knew I wanted to move to Central Oregon. I liked it down here. I wanted to be here. Yeah. And then I saw that they had a job posting, and I was like, this would be really cool if I could work there, right? Yeah. Again, not knowing a whole lot of the scene still, like, because I wasn't like super deep into it. It was just, I like these cars. I'm into them. Yeah. And somehow I got an interview, came down, did the interview, got the job. Okay, sweet. Like, sick. Cool. I'm moving, So I moved down here, and I'm working for them. And I was just I was like the sales guy. So if you bought anything, 15 years ago from Bahn Brenner, you might have talked to me on the phone. Rad. It was either me or Jason.
It's Colin here, man. How's it going? I need a supercharger for my ABA 2-liter Mark III Jetta. I had a cider. I just fucked all of that up.
Yeah, you almost had it though. You really tried. It's the effort that counts.
Oh, you probably got calls like that though. I probably sounded exactly like
well, that's the thing. People get caught up in the air, and they know what they want to say, but then it's like, okay, I'm actually having to say it now.
Or they totally don't know what they're trying to say. Yeah, they're trying to get something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well. So I'm working there. I'm sure there's still plenty of people that like Bahn Brenner and everything.
Are they still around?
I think so. I don't know. So John Betts, he's a big name Pacific Northwest wise because of the Chargers. He had a couple of cars that were fast for a Volkswagen. Obviously, because we know a fast car is a fast car, and a Volkswagen that's fast is different.
Different metrics.
Yeah, you got to measure them differently. And so he was well known around the area. Him, and he had a buddy. God, I wish I could remember his name. I know what his name is. I wish I could remember what it is. But he lived up in Washington, and it was like his main dude that would do a lot of stuff with him. There was a guy named Ty that was good friends with him. He had a 16-valve turboed Mark I that was fast as shit. Like that thing was sick. Was scary fast. Like I remember riding in it with John, who's a fucking crazy ass driver. And it was fast. It
legit
was,
fast. Not
legit
Volkswagen
no,
fast. Legit fast.
like legit fast. And yeah, so like he was well known, and as it devolved, I got more into the scene in this area. There was a club called BNW's, and I remember seeing posts. They had like posted on the Vortex, like, "Hey, we're doing a monthly meet here in Bend, like in all Central Oregon VW or Euro cars in general. It wasn't even VW, it was just Euro cars. Welcome to come." And I saw that, and I was like, "Hey, John, have you heard of these guys? Like, we should take some cars out to their little meetup." And he goes, "Yeah, those guys, they don't really like me." It's like, okay, that's kind of weird, but all right. Well, I'm gonna go check it out and see what they got going on. And he's like, "Okay, well, just don't mention me because they don't like I know they don't like
you
me."
don't want to be guilty by
And
association.
I'm like, okay, this is fucking weird. For one, you're a 40-year-old man, and you're like worried that these guys that are 20 years younger than you or don't like you. Like, what is this about?
Yeah.
So I go to the meet. Everybody's cool. I don't mention that I work at Bahn Brenner. I just say I got a job down here. And
Just relocated, man.
Yeah, I just got a job. And then I wanted to move here and found you guys. So hang out with them. Everything's cool. And like to this day, I'm friends with most of the people that were associated with that club. Like and then, it's been years and years. And so things have kind of fallen apart as far as the club goes, as far as I've seen.
Right.
But like most of the mainstay guys, like we're all still friends and we're all still Euro car dummies.
Yeah.
And so things evolve at Bahn Brenner, and I end up losing my job. I wake up to a phone call, my coworker calling me and telling me not to come in. And I'm like,
that's a lame way to lose a
it's
job.
like, okay, what's the deal? He said, "Well, John's letting you go." And I was like, okay. And so I just fucking hung up and went back to sleep. I was like, I was like 20.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck him. I don't care. Go back to sleep. It was already rough enough waking up early to go to work. It was only like 7:00. So I go back to sleep and I wake up, and then I like kind of start processing, and I'm like, why? So what was this about? And so I call the guy that I was working with, and I say, "Hey, like, so what's the deal?" And he goes, "Well, he said he's letting you go, but he said he wants you to come down and talk to him about it."
All right. Well, at least he's gonna.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, at least he's gonna talk to you about
I
it.
show up down there, and the guy that I work with, he gives me like my last paycheck, and I mean, like, there was some benefits. So like I had like some vacation time that I didn't use, so that was on there too, and shit like that. And it was like, okay, cool. At least he's being like
legit,
going about this the right way.
Yeah.
And he's back there like in his little office on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, just hang out a minute," and he said he wanted to talk to you. I was like, okay. I sat there for a half hour.
Damn.
And he still hadn't come out and talked to me. And I was like, and I just looked at the other guy, and I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking waiting anymore. Like,
yeah, dude,
this is stupid.
The fuck? I don't work here anymore.
So I leave, and it's whatever. And then I find out that he fired me because I was stealing parts.
You're stealing parts?
I was stealing parts. Yeah. And the funny thing is the reason that he told me not to mention him or the company that I worked there to the BNW's people was because one of the other guys in BNW's, like one of the like founder type people of BNW's, also worked there shortly before I started working there, and it got fired for stealing parts. Needless to say, neither of us ever stole any parts, but that's what he said.
Do you think he was pissed off? Well, I don't know why the first guy got fired. We can try to figure that out, but...
Well, you can talk to him. He still lives around town. He's a good guy. Total, yeah. Like,
let's spill the tea here on the podcast.
It's an interesting... I mean, like, and I don't want to, like... I can't say I don't want to speak ill of people, but because I definitely do when they're shitty people. But from my experiences, stuff with John he's kind of a shitty fucking dude, which
Man,
sucks because it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you've got this company and you should be doing right by people. And typically he would, but not always typically.
Do you
There's-
think he was pissed off at you for going to the bend up shit and associating with those dudes, and then use an excuse to fire you? Or
sometimes
that seems so random.
Yeah, sometimes I think that because it's like, what other explanation is there?
Yeah.
You know, I got a call from him like a couple months afterwards, and he goes and he says, you owe me money.
What?
And I said, John, I have been ordering parts through the company for my shit. Yes. And I said, you fired me before I could pay the bill. Like, I had been paying on it because we talked about me ordering parts through you and being able to pay my bill off.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you owe me X amount of money, and if you don't pay me, I'm going to take you to court. And here I am, you know, I'm 20, and I'm like, great, this fucking 40-year-old that probably knows a hell of a lot more about business and fucking, you know, law than
Yeah.
I do is going to fucking take me to court for this shit. I can't afford that. Like, I'm a kid. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I'm like, John, I just got another job. Give me a little bit. I'll fucking pay you. Like, it's not like I fucking skipped out on it. It's like you fired me before I could make all my payments. Like,
Damn,
what is
dude.
the deal? And he's just fucking pissed off, and he hangs up on me. Like he used the company phone to call me to do this, and then like you can hear it, you know, the old receiver. You can hear him fucking slam it into the fucking deal. You know, and I'm like,
Fuck.
like, how are you mad at me about this? You fired me before I paid you. Like, that is your fucking fault. You could have taken it out of my last paycheck.
Right.
How about that? I don't know. But you like didn't, so that you could fucking call me and threaten me,
Oh, dude.
like right off of that.
That's
So
a bummer.
whatever.
I googled BBM as we've been talking, and they still have a website and a number
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, he moved back to Washington or something like that, and then he was in Portland, and then like but I don't know anything beyond that.
I remember
anymore.
they used to be a huge name
Mhm.
in the scene from, let's say like the early to mid 2000s, maybe even a little before that. Maybe into the late 90s, but they were like a huge. You couldn't open like a Euro tuner or a
yeah,
magazine
they had ads and all
without
that.
seeing their shit in
And
there.
they had. Did they ever take a car to that Eurotuner shootout thing?
The GP shootout.
Yeah, I think they
Maybe.
did. I think they
Corrado.
did like once.
Didn't
yeah.
they have like a red Corrado?
Yeah, the red Corrado was there.
A red
Yeah, the
Corrado.
red Corrado.
Carbon fiber hood.
Yep. Yeah, that was
I remember
the
that
one.
car.
That was his main car, and then he tried building a turbo one, and it didn't work out so well. But yeah, they were big, and that's why I was like, oh wow, they're big in the scene. Like, that's why I wanted to work there.
Mhm.
And then it just evolved, and it was not a great situation to be in.
Yeah, it seems like they just disappeared.
I
Maybe
mean,
that's just me, but
well, and the thing is I think a lot of it was the scene shifting. Is where it used to be like people were
motorsport,
all
motors,
about
and then it turned into suspension,
go
air
fast
ride,
Mark
stance.
threes, and that's all we're gonna do. You know, Mark threes or Mark twos with swaps, Mark ones with swaps, stuff like that. That to just go fast, and they weren't looking at styling. And then people started getting more into the styling, and then they were like, okay, now I'm gonna VR swap my Mark 1 or you know
Right.
stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
people started putting forth the effort to make their car look cool before they went with a motor build or whatever.
Yeah. Well, being from Northern California, we always had like very strict emission standards.
Which is another issue.
So a lot of us couldn't really a lot of us did, but you know, a lot of us couldn't really fuck with any of that stuff. Like even an intake, you would have to like go get your shit refed just for having an aftermarket intake. A lot of people just said fuck it, and they would do like motor swaps and turbos and shit. I wasn't on that kick because I didn't want to like spend all this money building a motor on a car and then being like, oh, I have to go take it in for emissions. Like, how do I reverse this? Or I got to find a shady like shop that can fucking, sign off on the shit.
Yeah.
So that's how some of us from the Northern California scene were way more into the aesthetics. So like, like shaven cars, stance, wheels, that was all huge for us. But we used to come up to like the Pacific Waterland shows and like the what were the ones up in Washington?
Water wagons.
And we would see all these crazy fucking motor builds because you guys didn't have the same emission shit. So we would come up with all like the 3-piece wheels and completely stock fucking cars. And we'd show up here and it'd be like these kind of clapped out Mark IIs with like 500 horsepower 16 valve turbos.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, fuck. It's the first time I ever seen like a Mark II Scirocco run under like a 11-second quarter mile. It's at Pacific Waterlands. It ran like a 10.8.
Yeah.
Or like a 10 something, and I was like fucking floored. I was like, no fucking way, that's sick. So it was kind of crazy, but I mean, that's weird how the scene did kind of shift, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. People prioritized wanting their car to look good before getting wild with motor stuff.
That was like the
like an ABA swap in a Mark One, like that's common because it's like it's pretty simple,
right.
And it's like it's way better motor than
reliable
than like a early 1.6 or 1.8
exactly.
CIS garbage,
CIS bullshit, yeah.
And so it's like that's a great swap to have, and so it's like, okay, well, this is a simple, cheap swap I can do after I've already put money into wheels and suspension and shit like that to make the car look the way I want it to look, and then I can do this swap for now, and then I've got options.
For sure.
Which, I mean, I think that's kind of after working at a place that was so motorsport oriented, I think that made me realize like that I wasn't that into it. Like I'm all for having a car that can go. Like that's like that. Yes, that's fun. But I also would like to turn around and look at it and be like, I like the way my car looks. Yeah. And a lot of the motorsport guys don't really prioritize that.
It's all function, dude.
Yeah, it's a function, and I'll stand by form is function and form before function. But yeah, that was just the shift, and I think that's the shift I got caught up in, and that's where I've stayed essentially. So
I think like social media has a lot to do with that too, because back in the magazine days and the forum days, you had a lot of clout if you had like a high horsepower or like motorsport built or like functionally fast built Volkswagen. Like that was a big deal. You got a lot of fucking, scene cred for having a completely built turbo VR or whatever, right? Yeah. And then as social media came around, like it was more about like the aesthetics. And then you had the whole stance scene come in. So it was like it kind of shifted to where the clout went from like having huge horsepower numbers and torque numbers and dyno sheets and turbo builds and stuff like that to like who was the lowest. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, thanks to Ugly Bastard.
Who was the most stancy boy? And then I think that kind of went from there because like all the social media stuff like Instagram and Facebook, that's more visual. So you're like seeing the cars more. So it's like, hey, if I look at a picture car and it's slammed, wide wheels, whatever, that's more visually appealing than like a sort of clapped out Corrado that's got like a fucking 500 horsepower turbo VR or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, they're equally impressive to me.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not saying it's not impressive. And I do love to watch them take pulls down, you know, down the strip and shit, but it's
torque steer and everything.
But it's like they're cool. They are absolutely cool, and they have a place, and I like to see it, but it's just not my direction.
Well, here in Central Oregon too, man, there's not really many places where you can take like a 500, 600, 700 horsepower car.
No, I mean, there is the Madras, but it's only an 1/8 mile.
Yeah, but like being from Northern California, we would drive, like there's so much area and like highways and freeways that, like you can just go and like rip.
Really open it up.
Yeah, rip. Here we have like a highway that runs through town that's like 40 mile an hour speed limit or whatever it is.
I think it's 45.
45.
Yeah, which be...
You can get like
You'd
20.
be surprised seeing people do 45 on that road, though. That's for sure.
You can take 20 east, like out to Idaho, and do 200 miles an hour. No one probably notice.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of wide open spaces that it'd be hard to get caught.
For me, I've got 2 clapped out Mark 1s, right? And they're both diesels. And like, I'd be lucky if I could do 60, 65 in either of them, right? But it's like perfect for me around here.
Oh, just cruising around.
I'm just cruising around.
40
You know what I
miles to the gallon,
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly. I can't even remember the last time I put gas in the brown car.
Right?
It's been like a month.
And then when you
two.
fill it up, how much does it cost? Like $20?
I don't know, yeah, probably like $15.
Yeah, that's what it's like for me. Like I gotta try to fucking get 9 gallons in that thing.
It's like, dude, I have to empty the tank before I throw more fuel in this.
like
It's been sitting.
I'm gonna make it stop running before I can fit 9 gallons in the thing.
So the area is fine for like the cruisers that we do, but that's a crazy interesting story, and that's funny because I was talking to someone about that company. I can't remember who it was. Not too long ago, we were like reminiscing, and we were like, dude, wasn't Brenner from like here in Central Oregon? I like looked it up. I'm like, they were in Bend. Like they were here where we are right now. Like what the fuck happened to them?
They started in Washington, and then he moved down here. And then, like I said, he moved back to Washington or Portland area or something like that. And that after that, I don't know.
There's some legendary companies here. Tectonics is just right over
in Hillsboro,
there. Yeah. So
or not Hillsboro. Not Forest Grove. Yeah, Forest Grove. I think it was Forest Grove.
yeah, they're not too far away.
But yeah, and Tectonics is fucking great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, they're legit. I buy all my Mk1 shit from them. They just carry everything, dude. So especially when I was doing an ABA swap into this red Caddy I had, like I got cams, I got a like a solder in little flash. I got a bunch of shit from them, and it showed up like next day.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just the valley to here. It's not bad, right?
No. So all that shit happened. You got into some drama there. Was any of that resolved? Like, it was just like some bullshit?
It was just some bullshit. And now basically people from this area that were into the car scene, essentially shunned John and Bahn Brenner, and he stopped showing his face. Like, I mean, I remember going to, I don't think it was Bug Run. I think it was Waterland. It was like one of the really early years of Waterland, and over at Woodburn. And we were all there, and we caught wind somehow. And I think it was because my buddy Sean, the guy that got fired, like so that he could hire me for some reason, which that's a whole weird story he can go into with you if you talk to him. He ran into one of John's buddies and said, John's going to be here. And he showed up, and he showed up in the new Corrado that he had, the silver one that had horrible wheels. They were, God, it was just, I mean, this whole motorsport thing he has no style, like, is the problem.
Yeah.
Had a horrible fucking kit on it, and it was like, and just
these wheels only weigh 9
wheels.
pounds each, dude.
Right? Yeah, it's something stupid. And it was like his first foray into like trying to build a turboed car, and you could tell it ran like crap as he pulled up, and it
runs really good at wide open throttle.
Right? Yeah, that's all it had. And I don't know what he did with it. I don't know if he took it down the strip or anything. I don't know anything about it. I just remember all of us hanging out because we had a spot like right up against the fence, next to the main road in, and we were waiting for him to drive by when he left because we knew like he would see us because he knows us and our cars, and just and we weren't looking to be nice when he fucking drove by because he not just bad blood, okay? I'm not going to go into everything, but bad blood there. And he never drove by. And so we were like, all right, whatever. We stayed long enough, and we left. But after that, I haven't heard of or seen of him since.
Dang. And it seems like that company kind of dropped off.
Yeah, I don't know how much they offer. I don't know. I know for a while they weren't even offering chargers anymore because he couldn't get them anymore. Like Leichholm stopped making the particular charger, or stopped making chargers altogether. I can't remember. And I think he's tried doing an Eaton unit for a little while. And I just think a lot of people realized the supercharger
was a twin
route.
scroll, right?
Yeah.
That was
I just think I think a lot of people realize that setup was not optimal. Like the turbo stuff and everything was easier and was more readily available because there was multiple places that had it.
Yeah.
And so I think he just kind of lost his hold on it, because he had started with the G-laters. Like he was rebuilding them and stuff like that, and then he figured out how to modify them and get more out of the shitty fucking G-laters, and then that was the next step, was to do a real Charger, you know, and that's how the Leichholm started, and then it eventually moved from the G60 stuff into ABA and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I remember the two big kits back then were that Brenner ABA kit and then the New Speed like Charger kit. Those were kind of like the two main options that people were like weighing for an ABA. I had an ABA for a while, so I was always like nerding out on the shit, like, oh yeah, so and then never did anything to that car.
Well, and I remember being at Woodburn at one point, and one of the guys from Kinetic drove from Canada down there in his turboed ABA, because he was like, he had been talking to John about like the comparisons of like what his can do, what the other guys can do. And like John tried to put on a show. It wasn't a show. It was literally just it was like Streetcar Day or whatever. And John tried to plaster his name on it to make it look like it was his thing.
At the strip? At Woodburn?
To get people to show up with Euro cars. And so, like I said, the guy from Kinetic, I never met him, but I knew he was there and saw him come over and talk to John a little bit. He drove from Canada in his turboed ABA.
What was it? Was it a GTI?
Yeah, it was GTI.
Sick. Mark III?
Mark III, yeah.
Sweet.
But it was essentially, the concept was that car was exactly what John had. It was two red GTIs that were ABA and had a turbo kit versus a supercharger kit, and the concept was they wanted to run against each other and see, what kind of results they'd get.
Yeah.
And John's car broke, and the Kinetic guy drove his car home to Canada. Interesting, right?
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I think like that's another weird thing too. Like, so back in I'm going to say like the early 2000s, everyone I knew, like there was some companies making like turbo kits and charger kits for like ABAs and VRs. A lot of people were doing like some Frankenstein shit. Yeah. Right. And blowing their cars up. Like everyone I knew that tried to do like some turbo on their VR or their ABA blew it up, blew the fuck up. I think one kit that was like notable from back in those days for a turbo kit was like, I think it was the ATP. I think they made a kit, like an ABA kit.
I mean, it sounds familiar. Like the ones that I remember are Kinetic and Bahn Brenner, and then No Speed, and Eurosport. Those were like the mainstays. Eurosport did like, I think they got their start, which again, I'm not a historian on this shit. I just remember everyone had Eurosport.
Yeah. Bars.
Like that was everybody had them.
Yeah.
Like,
I had them in my completely bone stocked ABA Mark III Jetta.
Yeah.
No reason to have them.
Well, yeah, it's got a handle, right?
Eurosport, all the bars.
Yeah, my 90 horsepower ABA has
Uncut
really got
springs.
Really got to handle the corners.
Cut springs and some like shitty tires, but I need those fucking bars in there, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that's such an era, dude, gone by. I fucking remember that shit like very vividly. I remember all these companies. It was crazy. And then like as the stuff started to get like companies actually invested more in the research and development, you started to see more like bulletproof kits come out. Yeah. And more like actual options, and so where you didn't have to Frankenstein shit.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason that Vortec supercharger for the VRs is still around. Yeah. Because it's simple. It's nothing crazy, but it'll turn your VR from, it's being, it's a fun little VR. It's got a lot of torque. It turns that into a car it's pretty decent. Like,
and you get that fucking fire truck whine, dude, with them too.
And it's so undeniably reliable with that. Like it's like
it's so simple. You want more boost? Change the pulley.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody have like issues and like complaints about them. They
That's-
put them in, and then it's just like they're a driver.
It's
still.
funny that you say that. I used to do, so when I had a Mark IV R32, I used to go to a lot of like the R32 like clubs and meets, track days and stuff. I was like a stancy boy kid, so I would just park my car and then watch everyone else on the track. And all the turbo Mark IVs, R32s, like blew up or had issues. All of them. And then the only ones out there that were like, dudes drove them like 300 miles were the Vortex supercharger ones.
Right.
They showed up, they fucking just drove 300 miles. They did like 10 hot laps, and then they fucking drove home, and all the turbo guys are like, fuck, my car blew up. There was one HPA turbo Mark IV R32 at one of these events that I went to that was solid. I think it was the only HPA turbo one there. There's some other company, it was like EIP, some other fucking company that were doing like turbos. They had a turbo kit for the Mark IV R32s, and there was 3 of them at a track day. It was like a SoCal R32 track day, and all 3 of them blew the fuck up. And it was like a $15,000 turbo kit, dude.
Yeah.
That shit was not cheap.
Yeah,
Whatever it was.
It's pretty funny. Just the commonality of seeing Volkswagens blow up at a drag strip is pretty hilarious, because like I remember being at drag strips and seeing, and it'd be the, import day.
Yeah.
And so, like the Honda guys would show up and Volkswagen guys would show up and shit. And it was like the Hondas would run all fucking day and they'd be fucking hard on them. And it's like you'd see one blow a CV or something.
Right.
And that was it. That was all you saw.
Yeah.
And like Volkswagens would be fucking dumping transmissions on the ground, like just everything would
Shutting
be
the
fucking
laying
breaking.
down for all the oil that fucking
It's
spilled
like-
everywhere.
it's like,
Shifted
why-
into second.
We'll just go back to this again. Why do we like these cars? These
That's why we like them,
yeah,
dude.
These Hondas are fucking slapping us, and we want to go back to
Fuck
it.
them Hondas, dude. I'm gonna go back and fix my shit, and I'm gonna come back.
Yeah, I'll show him with my transmission on the ground again.
It's so great, dude. So let's get that's an awesome history. I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you had. That's part of the reason why I want to get you here and talk to you, because I'm fairly new to like being like embedded in like the Pacific Northwest scene, and it's obviously nothing now than it was back like in your days and stuff.
It was It was. I wasn't even that embedded either, because like in this area you're kind of apart from like the main scene, because like in the valley, like there's so many more people, and there's so many more people that have the right idea and do the right things out there, and we're a couple hours away. Like the group of us that are into it, we'd get together and we'd drive
Jam
up
out.
as much as we can to go to those things, but none of us were ever like so intertwined where like we're someone that like you mention a car and they're going to remember that car. Like that was never us. Like we weren't intertwined well enough for that.
Right.
Maybe things are going to change now with the way the internet is.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but it wasn't like that then. But I mean, we've always supported it and tried to be involved as much as we can.
Yeah. No, being from Northern California and seeing, like, I used to come up to, like I said, I would come up to all these shows all the time. And it was just completely different, like worlds apart. You know what I mean? Like even just being that close, Northern California and like Oregon, and even like going up into Seattle and seeing those car shows, they're like very far apart as far as like what people were into, like what people were concentrating on their cars, like how people were modifying things. A lot of it had to do with like emission shit in California, and then coming up here we get to see like all these like big turbo builds, like fucking they're like big turbo 16 valves, like a dime a dozen. I remember like just walking through like car shows and being like fuck like crazy. And so like moving here and relocating here after the scene kind of died a little bit, it was like, I knew the Volkswagen scene probably wasn't going to be that big here when I relocated here. I obviously didn't relocate here because I thought there would be like a huge
you came to the wrong place to get into the scene, but
right. I moved here with the XJ though, so I fit in with that. But yeah, like there's a couple of us here, dude.
Yeah,
we're doing cool shit.
Like I said, it's not a huge amount, but like those of us that have been here for a while, and we're all getting older, obviously, and we all still have the right mindset and know the right things to do. Like, I mean, the people that are into it are still into it.
Yeah.
And we're doing what we can, we're not fucking on PVW. We're not, huge clout boys on the internet.
Right.
But we know what we're looking for.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm like, that rings true to me, dude. You know what I mean? I'm all about that. I would say, even though we're few in numbers here in Central Oregon where we're at, as far as like Volkswagen guys, particularly like the older stuff, the few of us that are here have like rad cars. It's not, there's a couple of guys running around. I see more clapped out Mark Vs. I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
I see more clapped out Mark Vs than I do like Mark 1s or Mark 2s or Mark 3s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing for kids in this area, at least, I don't know how it is for other people, but like high school kids and like, real early 20s probably. I mean, I always just assume they're in high school because, I mean, I did dumb shit in high school too. But if the car it looks practically stock, but it's just loud as fuck, it's a high school kid because they just cut the exhaust off and are running, an open header, and that's it. And they think that that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's really terrible. It's like one of the worst noises ever. And it's like these kids think that this sounds good.
That's not only a Volkswagen thing though, because there's
no, it's
there's
everything.
Yeah, dude, there's like some like random like make meets, and I'm not gonna say the name of who throws them on, but I show up and it's just like a clusterfuck of everything. But everyone gets into like rev contest, and it's like just what you said. It's like everyone hack their fucking exhaust at the header, and they show up and they just fucking rev the shit out of their cars.
Yeah, and it sounds terrible.
It's horrible.
It's like good. Well, like okay,
and it's like a dude in a probe.
Yeah, right, yeah. Thanks. Good callback. Yeah, I mean it's like they're loud as shit, and it's like, but it doesn't sound good. Like there's a difference. Like.
Yeah.
You can have an exhaust on your car.
Loud does not mean good.
And it'll be loud, but it will also sound good. Like you need to make this correlation, Like you can't just cut it off and think this sounds good. It doesn't ever happen that way.
That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, it's kind of weird here, but I would say like, let's talk about your Jetta Coupe. So I love that thing. And I'll have to make a disclaimer. I have a running joke on this podcast about how I hate Jettas, but I don't hate Mark 1 Coupe Jettas. I want to make that very clear, especially with round front.
Yeah, it's got a early rabbit front, so that makes it okay, right?
Yes, that makes it even more awesome. So let's talk about that thing, dude. Okay. How did you get into that car? Because I fucking love that car. So, every time I post a picture of that car on either my Instagram accounts, like, it just gets a ton of attention.
It photographs well. Let's start there. So that was the Passat replacement. That ended up there was an intermediary all road, and then the all road got replaced by that. So on that particular drive back from Leavenworth, I was driving with my buddy Tyson, who has a V70R wagon that is
nice.
It's a little built.
Okay. Volvo.
And then another buddy that had a brand new V70R or whatever the newest ones is, or it was an S60 maybe. I don't remember, but it was the new sedan that's like twin charged.
Okay.
Another buddy that had like a newer super ugly Mercedes. I hate it was one of the ones that like the Mercedes that look like A7s, like when the A7s first came out, they were like really squished and long. But it was a Benz that I don't know what it was. I'm not super in on the Benz call outs.
Right.
But literally everything I was driving with had, twice the power I had in my little VR Passat, which the clutch was going on. And at one point on the drive back, like they're fucking blasting, like, and I'm just like, okay, I'm doing what I can here. And so it put in my mind, after it got totaled, okay, I'm going to get something that's got more power. And I've always thought all roads are cool. Something about them, I don't know why. Like, I get that it's not anything special.
Yeah.
But I found one that was a green on green, so a green interior, which is pretty rare. And it was a 6-speed.
Sick.
And so that was like
That's
main,
even harder to find.
right?
Is like a manual.
That was the
already.
main thing. It was like I was like, okay, this is a great combo. Turns out, like, my buddy and I found this guy on one of the Audi forums that, like, you give him your VIN number and he tells you, okay, this is how rare your fucking car is.
Oh, sick.
Because there's a lot of people that, like, think they have rare shit and it's not.
Yeah.
And my buddy had just gotten an S6, and so he wanted to see too, just cause, right? And so that car that all road was one of 533 ever in that combination.
Sick.
So that was cool. Like,
Yeah.
And I had all these big plans for it and shit, and eventually it just turned into like it just
money pit?
no, it just wasn't my thing. Like, there was something about it, like being, I mean, by no means is a new car. I mean, it was like a 2001 or something. Like, it's not new.
Yeah.
But for me, that was like the newest Euro car I'd ever had. And there was just something about it that it didn't have the feel that I was accustomed to. And I got bored with it. Like, I hardly did any, like, I did a couple little simple things that I do to just about everything.
Did you have to disable the stock airride?
So it had already been converted.
Oh, nice.
It had the
That's like the number one thing with all roads is like
which I kind of wished it had the air on it, because I was gonna do the what's it called? There's like a code for it that in the VAGCOM that you can just, I can't think of what the fucking
Set it
code
low?
is, but yeah, you can reprogram it lower basically.
Nice.
I was gonna, because I want to do that. I was like, oh, that's simple, easy for me to just get it a little bit lower and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It had already been converted, so it's like, okay, well, at least I don't have to worry about bullshit basically. And so then I, gonna do the coilovers and all that shit, and it needed the timing belt done. It was like due again basically. But it was like, it was
Man, that
so
thing almost had
nice.
200,000 miles on it then if it was due for another.
No, it was.
It's every 80 or something.
Yeah, it's
right?
80. I think it was like right at 160 or something like that. So it was like right at the interval.
Yeah, and that's not ever fucking fun.
Yeah,
dude.
and I had paperwork from window sticker to current.
Sick.
And so I knew when the mileage was that it had been done previous, but it had been really well taken care of. Like,
Nice.
the car was just super nice, and that's why I bought it.
Sick.
And then it got to that point where I was just like, I just wasn't feeling it. Like,
Yeah.
it was fun to drive. Like, it was a 2.7 was, with a 6-speed. Like, it was, even in that big heavy A6 body, it was still fun to drive, but it just, something about it wasn't doing it for me. So I started looking for other stuff, and that's when I ended up finding, I had narrowed it basically down to the Jetta out there, and there was a Mark II 4-door that was like the really light blue, and it was VR swapped.
Sick.
And it looked really, really clean. It looked really nice. Interior had the full Recaro interior in it. I mean, it was the guy had gone through it and done a really nice job. The problem was the body had a lot of issues, like stuff that didn't show up in like your standard photos.
Right.
But he said up front, like, it's got these issues, and he sent me pictures of it that were close up so you could really see what it was. And I'm not a body guy. And I know body work is expensive, because especially good body work.
And it's harder on those older cars, dude, because you can't just like fix a patch and then get the paint to match.
Right, exactly. And so it was one of those where I was like, okay, it's have a car that is basically sound, but then have to deal with the body stuff, or have a car that's got a better body that has probably some things that I can work on.
Right.
And so I went the latter route and went with the Mark 1.
Dude, so sick. So when you pulled up in it, and I was like so stoked. I'm like, I hope he drives a Jetta. You pulled up in it, and we started chatting in the driveway. And I think you said that you're like second owner, third owner.
So yeah, it's something weird where I'd have to like look back through my conversation with the guy that I bought it from. But he owned it for a long time. Like he was one of the very early owners. And it's gone through a couple of like rebuilds at his hand, basically.
Has that thing ever been resprayed or painted? Okay.
Yes. So initially, I think it's always been a diesel car, but it was an early diesel. So it was like one of yours out here with
non-turbo,
non-turbo 1.6 or something like that. And so it had a couple of stages with that, and then what he did, and it was like mid 2000s or something like that. He like went full bore. Like he sent me pictures and everything. Like it was stripped down completely, like completely, like everything was out of it, stripped all the paint off it. Everything was done. And he or somebody that he knew or whatever redid the whole thing. So it's been resprayed. It had body work done. And that's when he did the rabbit front on it. And
was it white before being
resprayed? But it was white.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was the thing that I appreciated about it was like like I said, like we talked about earlier, like I don't remember all the color names, but the thing that I appreciated was, so it's an early Jetta and he put the early rabbit front on it, but there was still the crossover there. It's the right year range so that the color was an option on both of those cars.
Sick.
So it's not like it's got a Jetta white with the rabbit front or a rabbit white with the Jetta body.
Right.
It's that color could have been either car.
Sick.
So it's like, okay, that's a cool
little bit of
thing
attention to detail.
It just kind of works out in my brain.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, that's cool that it's the right color either way.
That is pretty dope.
Yeah. So he did that, and then he did a 1.9 TDI in it.
Sick.
And it's got an O2A transmission in it.
Nice.
And the kind of the cool little thing that, and I don't remember if he said that it came this way or if it was something that he found and added, but it has a dealer install AC.
Nice.
So it's got the little console
and it works
under
and
the dash, works.
Good.
And it's, so I've got AC. And that was one of the other things that sent me that direction was because the wife said she wouldn't ride in a car at Leavenworth if it didn't have AC.
Yeah.
So that car had AC, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to get AC. So, so that was part of it.
That's awesome. So how much more different did it look when you got it from the previous owner till now? Because you got Euro bumpers on it now.
Yes.
RSs are fairly new. That didn't come on it.
Correct.
Right. And then like the chrome flag mirrors, like the interior is all that.
So interior was previous owner also.
Okay.
So that's
like the super dope.
Is
that a Scirocco?
It's the Scirocco interior. Yeah,
dude, the Scirocco.
So it's got the early Scirocco plaid.
Oh,
yeah,
so sick.
It's really cool. I mean, it shows its age. Like you saw it. The bolsters. Some of the bolsters have a little bit of vinyl cracking and stuff like that, but it's still kind of a nice touch, and it's got a blue interior, so it matches with that.
It's just aged well. You can tell it's just an aged well interior. It's not shredded or wrecked by any means. Like you still look in there and you're like, "Fuck, dude."
Yeah, it's a car that it's always been used. Everything from the previous owner that I've talked to him about the car was used. He always used it.
You said that he had like a daughter or something.
He said that it was his sister. She ended up with it.
Like cross country drove it.
Yeah. So she ended up with it in Kansas. And so that you've posted on the page pictures of it at that juncture. Like that was when I bought it, was the way it looked that first. So it had the little rack on it and the Corrado Steelies. That was how I bought it, and it had the rabbit bumpers that were tucked, but it had the 1.9 in it already and all that. But yeah, he had built it that way for her. and she drove it around Kansas, and that's why it has rot, would be my assumption, because we know how they treat the roads over there.
Yeah.
But apparently she had been driving it back and forth to Washington from Kansas multiple times after this rebuild. And it's like, and so it's like, he tells me that, and I'm like, well, fuck, like I'm obviously not going to have to worry about any of my drives to anywhere, you know? And so, yeah, so that's the state that I got it in. The guy is, he's an engineer type. So he
perfect.
Yeah. So he thinks he overthought a lot of things, which
that can either be a good thing or a bad thing, but generally engineers are like very meticulous about the important stuff.
He absolutely was. Yeah. He he did like little things like so the towers, it has raised towers.
Oh shit!
It's not caps. It's he raised the towers.
Sick.
And he notched for the axles, even though he wasn't that low. He was like he just did stuff preemptively, like knowing like, well, if I get it back, I might want to lower it.
Yeah.
And things like that. And so like it's like he really thought stuff out. He the 1.9 in it's got a rover pump, so it's all full mechanical. So like I can go out there and turn a fucking screw and couple of nuts and have more boost, more fuel, all that shit.
Sick.
Like it's been well thought out. There's little things that have been done well, and it's like I said, it's been used, and to stick to the theme, that's all I've done with it. Like I've just used it. Like there has never been a point where I've set it in the garage and like, okay, I'm going to take it apart and do all this work to it. It's I do something to it, and then I drive it for a couple months, and then I do something to it, and then I drive it even more.
Fuck yes,
like
dude.
It's a driver that it has stuff done.
Dude. Drive it. Drive your cars. I fucking love that thing. And this is from someone who hates Jettas. But the Euro bumpers, are those legit?
Fuck no. Yeah. If I could,
they look super good, dude.
It's the standard fucking.
Are they the small bumpers?
Small bumper MX.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's what they are.
Man, they look so good.
And so right when I got the car, it was, because it was before I had wheels and shit. I was still on the Corrado Steelies, and I'm driving to work. And I got rear-ended in it, and it was literally I had it shit
in the Jetta.
Yeah,
I think I remember you saying this. We were talking at the Dubs and Donuts meet.
Yeah. I had it for what?
Fucking people,
maybe
dude.
A month. Like I hadn't even had it that long, and I'm driving it to work, which is for me, my drive to work is like 10 minutes or less. So 10 minutes from my house to work, and somebody fucking rear ends me, and like, and here I am, flashbacks, Passat, like getting crunched, and I'm just like, dude. You just like as if the Passat wasn't savable. There's no way this thing's not totaled, right?
Yeah.
So we get pulled over, and I go back there, and I've got like the worst thoughts in my head. Like, this is not going to be good.
Yeah, dude. It doesn't take much for a Mark 1, dude.
And especially because it had tuck bumpers already.
Yeah.
So it's like the bumper has no give in it, you know. So as soon as that gets pushed, it's going to push into the freaking rear apron, you know, and that's it. And I get out.
Some Mark 1 nerd, anti-tuck bumper guy is going to listen to this and be like, I told you, motherfuckers.
Right? So I get out, and I'm looking at it, and I'm crawling around. And she's like, the chick is like, she goes, well, there's no damage to either car. And I was like, I'll be the judge of that. Like, you're not telling me that there's no damage to my car, okay?
Yeah.
And as she says that, I look at her car, and she's got like a early 2000s Mercedes. And I can see that the bumper right behind where the license plate is fucking blown up. And I'm like, there's damage to your car unless that was there before. And she looks at it and she goes, oh no, my boyfriend's gonna be so mad. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and check my car.
How did she rear end you? Were you at a light?
We're at a light.
And she just didn't pay attention that you were stopped?
So no, she was stopped too. So she went before it was green. She says, the turn lane turned green, and I just went.
Oh,
and I'm like, yeah, there's the problem, right? So I'm looking the car over, you know, and I'm crawling around under it, like, and I can just, the bumper is totally concave, you know, and I'm like, fuck,
Hope they didn't transfer the
yeah.
frame rails.
So I'm looking at it. I'm like underneath it, looking at the frame rails, looking at the apron, and it like just did not touch the apron. Like, I mean, we're talking this, like I had my like phone with the light. I'm like trying to shine it through, you know, to see if I can see light through it. And there was like just the most minuscule amount of light through there. And I'm like,
shit, like millimeters,
okay,
dude.
it didn't touch the apron. Like, thank God. Like, okay, this is turning out semi-decently so far.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't look like, I was like, I'm not a body guy. It doesn't look like it crunched anything. The bumper is definitely bent. And I was like, but we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And she goes, I would really appreciate it if you did not report this to insurance. And here, and I'm already like, this is how I get fucked right here. And I shouldn't have done it, but I was like, okay, I'll
pull out them wads of cash, lady.
like, yeah. She's like, I will pay for whatever you need. Just please don't. And so I get all of her information. Like I got fucking insurance card and everything. Cause I was like, if you try to fuck me, you fuck me, fuck
I'm going
you.
the other way. Yeah.
So, so she's like, just find out how much the stuff is and I'll buy it. I was like, okay. And so that's how I bought Euro bumpers.
Sick.
And so I got those and, you know, and I sent her the, you know, a screenshot. This is how much the bumpers are. You can pay for half because I'm going to buy a front one while I'm buying a back one, obviously. And that'll be that. She said, okay, we meet up. She gives me the cash. Cool. So everything was fine. So that's how I got them. But my problem is I'm a dummy. And here I am, like, you know, on small bumpers, you know, and then just click to order.
Yeah.
I got rabbit bumpers. And so the front one is the correct size. The back one is a rabbit bumper on a Jetta, and Jettas are wider. So it doesn't quite
I didn't even notice
right.
that.
Yeah. They don't quite fit right. The back one. I mean, it fits fine. I had to kind of do a little bit of trimming to the little plastic end caps, and I fucking busted one, of course.
Yeah, dude, those things are, I've had 3 sets of those bumpers. Those fucking end caps are garbage.
Yeah, they're
dude.
terrible.
They're so horrible.
But of course, I'm gonna have to order another pair of them, or I'm gonna have to get a Jetta rear bumper, which isn't cheap, and somebody's not paying for it because they didn't rear end me again.
I hate having to prep the brackets for the screw holes. Did you have to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck, it's such a nightmare for some reason.
But the thing is, like, I get where he's coming from when he does it that way, and he says it in
they're
the
all a little
thing
different.
because it's like, yeah, well, no, it's not even that. It's if your car's been rear-ended, or whatever, or front-ended, whatever, and your channels are tweaked in any way, if he has a set of holes in there that aren't right, it's gonna bend the bumper as soon as you tighten it up.
I think he should have like slotted.
If he could slot them, that would be perfect.
Just like the whole bracket.
Yeah,
just slot the whole bracket, and it's a fucking thing weighs like 7 pounds, maybe not even that.
Yeah,
they're super light. So you slot the entire bracket, and then you can just kind of move it wherever you need it to sit.
That would have been the easier way, but also for him who's mass producing them, it's like that's another step in that bracket that he's got to do.
$25 more a bumper. I'll pay that.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Those of us that, you know, we'd be willing to do it, but I get it from his end, so it's fine. Like we can deal with it, whatever.
I accidentally ordered. I did the same fucking thing. And I had a swallowtail, a black swallowtail that I got from Washington, and round headlight car. And I accidentally ordered the late Westy bumpers that don't have the turn signals.
Yeah.
So they showed up, and I was like, "Fuck!
Yeah, I have no turn signals now."
Oh well.
Yeah. Whoops. I know how to do hand signals.
It's hilarious. No, those fucking bumpers look sick. And then the RSs, dude, because those things fit fucking perfect on that. And most RSs I see on Mark 1s like poke a little bit. You know what I mean?
It was an interest. So
are those re-drilled or are they legit 4x100?
No, they're not even 4x100.
Oh shit!
No, I'm running
adapters.
Yeah.
Sick.
So the funny story about the wheels was I wasn't looking for RSs. I love RSs, and I love RSs on a lot of cars because they are that prototypical correct look for
Disclaimer
for this
from
type
me,
of cars.
I don't care how much people say RSs are played, I fucking love RSs.
The reason they're played is because they fucking look good on everything. There is a
love
reason.
RSs.
Just because it's common doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay, like those are like absolutely there. It is hard for a car to look bad on RSs.
Yes,
period.
I agree.
Even and I can't stand it. Like even the cars that have like the massive uplips, I fucking hate that look, especially when they get like, well, at least if it's like 1 inch, like one step bigger, like I'm cool with that. But when we're talking like a 15-inch center on an 18, like I fucking hate
those crazy
that look.
bubble lips.
Yeah, and a lot of people like
steps.
it, and that's fine. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Whatever. I fucking can't stand the look. But I digress. Either way, I wasn't looking for RSs. I really wanted to get some type of 4-spoke.
Okay.
I love weird fucking wheels. I would have loved
Terramonts.
Yeah, a Tremont would have been cool, but those only come in 14s. Like that's the biggest you can go. I looked at the Apaches. I looked at what was that other one?
Image makes some dope 4-spokes. Have you seen the Image wheels?
You mean knockoff wheels? No, I don't look at knockoffs. No, I do not. I do not support that. Equips would have been the other one. My thing about the Equips was
more of a JDM wheel.
Well, I love JDM wheels.
Okay,
I 100% would have put JDM wheels on that fucking thing. So I love JDM
I've got nothing
wheels.
against it, but some people have issues with putting
absolutely. My issue is fake ones. If you want to put fucking JDM wheels on a Euro car, by all means, please. They have some of the best fucking wheels that there's ever been. Like I would have loved a set of Onis for it or something like that. Like, cause I love the old 3-spokes too. Yeah. I wanted some like an odd retro wheel.
Yeah.
And I searched and searched and searched, and there was tons of like, little things that they did. They were close, not quite, Then it was like 14s, and then out here, like I know in Europe you can get 14-inch tires in all kinds of weird sizes still. Yeah. Here, not so much. It's like you've got a couple of options, and it's like, okay, I can go weird, tall bubble stretch, or a weird square wheel that is never going to fit the way I want my car to sit.
Yeah.
And then 13's kind of the same thing. You're kind of stuck with tire options. And you can be fucking really low, which is great. Like that's totally my thing. But at the same time, it's like I really adhere to like a wheel fitment look that I have in my head that I can't get around.
I always think that 13s, like I always think Mark 1s on 13s never look low enough. You know what I mean? Even when they're slammed.
It's because the wheel well is just big enough to make, even when it's low, to make those wheels look too small.
You're like dragging oil
but
pan.
They're fucking low.
Well, you're dragging oil pan, and you throw some stretch tires on it or whatever, and you still have like a 2 or 3 finger gap between the top of the tire and the fender, and you're on your oil pan on 13s or whatever it is.
It's like, fuck yeah, that's like that was my mindset. I was like, shit, man, like 13s, like I'm low easy. Yeah, like that's gonna be cake to get low with that, know. But it's just like, but then it's just the options just aren't
tires
there.
Are bum. Yeah.
And then it's the same thing, like looking at 13-inch Onis and stuff like that. They're all JDM offsets, so they're super high offset, and it's as you know,
it's good for adapters.
These cars or super high, super low.
Low's not good.
Yeah. So when I say high, I mean like heavy lip, but they're super low offset, and so that does not work well with these cars. They don't have the capacity to handle that,
especially the fronts.
Yeah. And so I was just running into a lot of issues with that and finding the right set, because the right set of wheels means everything. It totally can make or break how your car looks.
100%.
And
especially if you're static.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially if you're rolling static.
And that's my thing. Like I'm not an air person. I see the need for it. I understand people that have air, but it's not my thing. Anytime I see somebody with an aired out car, all I can think is like, yeah, but if you just were static in like a half-inch higher, you could drive it. Like, and that's how I go about it. It's like, I drive at my parking height. Like that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And there's some people that drive low with their air, and that's fine. But it's like there's something to be said about people that are willing to deal with the fucking annoyance.
That's what I was just about to say. Low. It's a little bit more like you get a little bit more respect or street cred from me if you're static low. You know what I mean? Just because there's shit you have to deal with being static.
Yeah, and it's I'm by no means.
I love them both.
Yeah, like I said, like I understand the place for it, and I get it. I get it when people do it, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna tell you I don't like that it's on air.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
I just don't. It's not my thing. I don't like that. Like I would much rather see it static. Like that's like and I guess my other thing, my rule, I guess I should say, for people with air is if that thing can move completely aired out, then what was the fucking point? If it can move aired out, then you could be driving it static.
I think it's easier.
Oh, it 100%.
I think it's easier to go air ride and be like static low and have a comfortable ride at the same time. Yeah. You could do it static. You spend a little bit more money, right?
To be real comfortable.
With
how it rides.
Right.
Sure.
So you have raised strut tires, so you don't have to worry about that, or you have to run caps. Anything that gets you the full suspension travel.
Give some kind of travel. Yeah.
Right. So little bit more work when you're static. A lot easier to be on an air kit and ride, static low, but like have a higher comfort level. I think that's like a benefit.
Yeah, I mean that's how people look at it. Is it's I'm gonna get to drive and be comfortable while I'm driving. My issue is, and I think people have kind of have strayed away from it a little bit. But like when air was like the new thing and everybody had to have air, you'd see everybody driving around, and it was always like, I mean, there was 2-3 inches of wheel gap that they're driving around on. And it's like, so why did you even fucking lower your car then? Like if that's how you're going to drive it, and you're going to drive it and it looks like trash. So for the general public who are driving past you in traffic right now or looking at your car like, this thing looks fucking stupid. Like you've got these fitted wheels on it or whatever, or quote unquote fitted, but because you're on air, you've got them tucked in a little bit so that you can air all the way out, hopefully. And here you are driving around with 6 inches of fender gap. It's like, this looks terrible.
That's how my Mark IV R32 looked.
Your car isn't parked 100% of the time. Your car is driving.
When I think I had VN lines, or what were they? I think when I had my VN lines, I had a stance to where I would split the tire and the lip. And my fenders would like sink right in between the tire and the lip.
The stretch,
and aired out. That looked pretty cool. I wanted to tuck, but with those VN lines, it just didn't work to be able to tuck them. But dude, at any ride height, it looks stupid.
It looked terrible. Yeah, like
I hated it.
There is such a fine line. Like if you're going, and that's the thing. Like you were saying, like there's more work to put into having it static and sit right and be able to drive it and to also be able to ride 100% comfortably or whatever. But I could also say the same thing for air. Like you have to do the extra work to make it look right driving and parked. Get that little bit of extra lower parked. If you look like garbage driving, then what was the point? Your car is literally here to be driven, right? So most of its time is spent doing what?
I don't know. I think
driving.
A lot of kids nowadays are like, I don't know, I built my car to park it.
Unfortunately, it's like, but that's not how most people see it.
Yeah.
Most people see your car when you're out driving it around. And if it looks like trash driving it around, then what is my reason to check it out parked?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like
I see where you're coming from. Dude, like I said, I like them both. I've had air ride on several cars. I have static Mark 1s now that are pretty low, even by today's means. I think my brown buddy's pretty fucking low. So I like them both. I love driving my static cars around and having all those static issues, creeping over speed bumps and not being able to make it into certain driveways, and like paying attention what streets I can drive on and what I can't, and like plotting like, oh, I can't drive down the street. They're doing construction work there. I don't want to blow my oil pan out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's fun for me. And then like, you know, I see the benefit like, so I have the Brown Bunny and I have the MG Rabbit. I really want to do air ride on the MG Rabbit. And the reason why I want to do air ride on the MG Rabbit is because, man, I don't feel like I want to wreck it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, you know, my Brown Bunny, I don't care. I think I'll drive around and I'll fucking stuff that into a median and be like, all right, well, that was a fun car. But the MG Rabbit, I kind of want to, like, preserve a little better. You know what I mean? And so I think I could do that better with air ride. You know, I could still get the stance I want.
You feel the security of it being potentially preserved. Yeah,
and if I put the air ride on that car, I'm gonna do the best that I can to like not drill a bunch of holes in it and do all that shit so I can pull the air ride off.
It's probably rusted, so you can just run the lights through that
just like poke it through with the screwdriver.
I mean, whatever, you know, the hole's there.
That thing's actually pretty solid. It's got definitely got some surface rust issues and some pillar issues, but I was all underneath that thing, and it looks pretty good underneath.
No, that's always a good start.
Brown Rabbit? Not so much.
Yeah, well,
opposite story.
That happens.
Yeah, it's got some crunchy pans when you...
Yeah,
when you're driving it. So back to the RSs, though, because those fucking fit perfect.
Yeah, so what they are, they're actually... So they're a 5-lug. They're a 5-on-120. So
oh, shit, really?
some kind of BMW you know, setup. And they're... So when I bought them, they were 100% stock. If anybody's got one, send me it. One BBS metal valve stem cap. Just saying, there's one that I'm missing.
Throw a feeler out there.
Right? Yeah. So, but valve stems are all there. Caps are all fucking good. But they were 7s. So they're 7 wide, 43, I think, offset was where I was starting from. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like I said, I wasn't looking for RSs. I came across them. They were well under what RS standard prices are. And
that's another thing, too. RSs are fucking, might as well be Bitcoin.
And
the Bitcoin of wheels.
I saw them, and I was like, at that price... Even if I don't fucking put them on this car, I'll just sell them and make money, you know? So I bought them. Fuck it. I'm just going to buy them. They're not quite right, whatever. Just buy them, get them. I'm like, okay, I'll try and make them work, you know? So I got adapters for them because I looked into getting them re-drilled, and it was going to be a whole another entendre of like, okay, I've got to send them out to get them re-drilled. Then they're going to have to get repowdered or painted because they're going to weld the holes up because there's a crossover hole. And then I got to deal with all that. But the plus side of that would have been I could put bigger lips on them, which, you know, bigger lips, that's cool. Yeah. And it was just like the prices were like adding up. And this is why people that complain about RS's prices, this is why. It's because people that go the extra mile are going to spend well more than what they're selling them for on just getting them to be the way they want them, right? And so I didn't go that route. I went adapters. I found the narrowest 5-on-120 to 4-on-100
what was that?
Adapters.
15, 10?
They're 20s.
20s? Okay.
I think they were 20s. So, and, you know, they got the weird fucking bolt that's got 2 holes in it that like screws into the thing. You know, they're super weird. And
you gotta let me know where you ordered those, because I have those Southern Ways that are behind you, and I want to try to put those on the brown car, and those are 5x120.
Right.
Yeah. And I was looking, I can only find one set pops up on eBay.
Yeah, I got them on eBay.
Okay, I'll probably just get those.
Yeah, it's like Blocks Sport or something. It's some like Chinese company. Yeah. And funny story, one of them when it came, I'm putting them together. I got the fronts on. And I go to one back, and of course the last one, somehow it wasn't the first one I looked at. The last one, they had machined it wrong.
Oh shit.
So they're hub centric. And so the hub centric lip was on the opposite side of the countersunk bolts to bolt it to your. So it was 100. Somebody had forgotten to like flip it for op 2 in the machine, you know. And so I'm just like, well, what am I supposed to do with this now? You know. Luckily, one of my buddies that lives in Terrebonne, so like
Not too far
5-minute
from us.
drive
Yeah.
for me from Redmond.
Yeah.
He's a fellow machinist, and he has machines in his shop.
Sick.
And I said, hey, like, can I bring this over and have you turn the hub centric ring off of this so I can at least put the wheels on?
So you just do it on a lathe and just
and he just pulled the hub centric ring off of it, and that was it. And because that's fine. Like I don't need the hub centric ring; they're studded anyway. Like whatever. I just want to put the fucking things on and see it. So did all that, got that on there, and what I was gonna do was I was gonna polish the stock lips. And come to find out, I was like, 7's little narrow. Not a whole lot of tire options that are going to give me the kind of stretch. I'm not looking for freak stretch. I'm just looking for enough stretch that I can tuck most of the tire into the fender well, because that's how I want it to sit.
And get that like flush fitment.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's still around, but I am 100% from the hella flush blog day. Those cars were my jam.
Yeah.
The hella flush wheels
lip and
fitment
face
is
just flush with the
100.
fender.
That is absolutely what I want. That is
Nice.
everything that I want is right there like that. Really low flush wheels. That's my thing.
Yeah.
So come to find out, I've got a little bit of space there. So then it was the search for 1/2-inch lips. Not an easy search. Like there's tons of, or not 1/2-inch, 1-inch lips. I'm sorry. The factory lips are the 1/2-inch.
Yeah.
Then there's, the 0 lips. And I also really like face mount 0 lip. I love that. And I thought about that, but then
I was just going to ask you what you thought about the zero lips.
the way that works for me, in my mind anyway, is that's perfect for guys that are on air. Because you get to tuck your lip while
Still
poking
having that
face.
Yeah.
And that's like, I understand like that computes for me, I get that, but for
It's a sick look too.
Yeah,
If pulled off right, it looks sick.
right, exactly. For my concept, I guess I should say, or however my mindset of how I want it to fit, it wouldn't look right. And then I would need more spacer and more barrel to get the amount of tire stretch I need to do it. So then, like I said, I'm on the hunt for these, for a 1-inch lip.
And you get 1.5 and 2 inches and 2.5 inches
all over the place.
everywhere.
Like anything bigger than 1 inch is like fucking easy. Everybody's fucking got them, 3-piece, all those places. They've all got them, and it's easy to find.
Yeah.
The 1-inch, near impossible. I've finally came across the place, and it was like Denmark or something like that, that had them. And it said like there's 6 available, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna fucking buy them because there's only 6, and I don't want to wait any longer, So I just just hit fucking buy, of course, just making stupid choices, and that's what it has. So there's 7.5s,
Nice.
and
they're 15s, right?
yeah, 15, yeah.
And they're square. Are they square
Yes,
set?
square, yeah.
And you're running, what tire size? 165?
145.
145. Ooh.
Yeah. Small as I could.
Yeah.
It's
145.
It's a
50, 45.
here I go again. I don't remember.
That's a weird tire size.
It's they're small. God,
They don't look that small when you see the car in person. They look perfect
Yeah.
on those wheels.
Yeah. But
It's like what would I call it? It's like a gentleman's stretch.
yeah. Like I said, I wasn't trying. I wasn't shooting for, extreme or anything like that. But I knew that I was going to need some kind of stretch in order for it to fit the way I want.
They look really good, dude. They look really good.
I
I mean, the
appreciate that.
offsets came out perfect. So
Yeah,
you're
I couldn't believe how
like an
perfect it's set.
ET23 or something.
I think so.
dude.
Yeah, it's like they're 7.5 ET like 23 or 25, something like that. And so yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how perfect. And the main thing is the back, because the front you can kind of dial in a little bit with some camber and stuff.
Yeah.
The main thing was the back. I didn't want it to be fucking way the hell out there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to run flares. I had the mindset, for a minute there, I was looking at the initial fitments of it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna have to run flares. That sucks.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, not trying to offend people that run flares, but like I didn't want to run flares.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, especially with flares, if I want to be as low as I wanted to be
You gotta poke those
with
wheels
flares,
out a
I'm
little
going to have to cut the fucking fender out behind it. For those of you that don't know about this, you gotta learn your ways. This is why you can't be low with flares. It's because you don't cut your fucking fenders. You have to cut the insides of it out.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
then you cover it with the flares.
to cover with the flare, and and then the tire can fit into that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, God, I really didn't want to go that route because it just didn't. To me, it didn't fit the way the car looked.
Mm-hmm.
The car to me it just looks too classic. Like it has just that classic Mark I like look to it. And I feel like the flares just don't have that vibe.
It would have detracted from what you're going
and
for.
Like there's cars that pull off the flares perfectly. Like there's what's his Alejandro in the Valley. He like started the whole Narlo thing.
Guys. Right.
He had a set of these
Southern
Ways on a Mark I Jetta with flares, and that thing was Narlo. It was fucking low, and it had flares, and it had to have been cut up because that thing was fucking low as shit, and it looked rad on those wheels, and like so it's like to get to that point, you have to be willing to do it.
Well, I think your Mark I Jetta Coupe is too good of an example to cut the flares on. You know what I mean? Like my Brown Rabbit, I'd cut the fucking quarters and flares on that thing all day. Yeah. But my MG Rabbit, nah. Yeah. And plus your quarter flares look super good on the Jetta anyway. I like that.
The quarter flares are perfect. Again, just like that specific look, and that's why I went the flag mirrors and the chrome flags and stuff like that. Sick. My car is absolutely nothing new, groundbreaking, nothing. It's a prototypical from like the shit that probably got people our age into these cars. Seeing a car that looked like that, that is what made you think, I kind of want a Mark I.
Dude, I mean, fuck. I think you do have like a very like iconic look with that, right? So RS's, the Euro bumpers, the stance is fucking nailed. I don't think you can get a better stance running static in a Mark I, especially, some people, I don't know, like when the wheels and tire sizes and stance all come together, then that's like the full package and it looks perfect. Some people are like, the tires are a little too skinny and it makes everything look weird when they're, you know what I mean? They're low or I don't know. Like when the tire size and the wheels and the offset and the stance and everything's nailed together, then it's just like your Jetta's like a fucking perfect execution of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and a lot, like you said, it is a lot of the tire thing, because if you wanted more stretch for, a 15 that's as narrow as those are, you end up going much narrower tire, but then it's extra sidewall. And so then it just, that stretch, you gain all that stretch, but the sidewall height is so tall that it makes the proportion of the tire look kind of just weird off,
because it's like offset back from where the
not,
face
like
and the lip
doesn't
are.
It just doesn't quite look right. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Nice. No, dude, that's why I fucking, I first saw this thing. I was like, dude, this thing is so sick, because it nails every aspect of what I think makes a fucking awesome Mark I. The stance, the wheels, the Euro bumpers, the round conversion, the Scirocco interior. Like, fuck, this thing's just like super sick.
It's like I said, it's straight out of, freaking VW Trends. Yeah. Like magazine from, the 90s or whatever. Like it's but it was, built by some guy in Germany, that just picked together the right parts that are all correct. Yeah. And it just fits together and looks well.
Another thing too is like, we've been in the scene for so long that when we see cars like this, some people might be like, oh, that's played, or like that's been done a million times. Well, it's getting harder to build cars to look like this nowadays. That's a point that people don't really pay attention to. It's like, you used to see this shit all the time, 10 years ago, we'll say. Yeah. But shit, to actually build a car like this, first find a Mark I coupe that isn't trashed. Completely trashed. And then start from there.
Yeah. Like my buddy Pat here in town, he bought a Mark I coupe like right after I did, and it was silver. But I haven't even gotten to see it in person yet because he got it and he right away just fucking stripped it. And
Dude, he's in town, right?
Yeah.
He sold me those intras. I think he's the one who sold me those 13-inch intras.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. He hasn't had it for that long.
Okay.
His name's Patrice.
I think he sold me those intras. I think he even when I met him,
Was it the stock wheels on the Mark I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
were the
Then it might have been him.
13-inch intras.
Yeah,
And I met him, and I was like, dude, sick. And he told me he had a coupe, and that's what those wheels are off of. And then he mentioned your name, and he's like, yeah, my buddy Colin's got the white. I was like, oh, shit, I know that dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah,
Dude,
I've known Pat for a little while. He's a pretty cool kid.
He's getting body and paint work
Oh, yeah.
and stuff done to it
He
right
went
now.
he went
Right.
full bore on
Yeah.
it. I wish he would have kept it silver. But he painted it blue. It's one of the Mark I blues. So
Okay,
at least
cool.
he kept it Mark I.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, he's trying to get that put together and shit. Like I said, I still haven't
Sick.
seen it in person, but
Yeah.
he works with my other buddy Aaron, and Aaron's seen it, and he said that it was fairly rough when he got it, and that's part of why he wanted to paint it, and that combined with the fact that his dad is a body guy.
Nice.
And so that kind of helps. And I think he found somebody else to paint it too that
Rad.
was like a local guy that just paints cars in his garage or whatever.
Yeah,
but
sweet. I need to
knows what
find
he's
that guy.
doing at least. Like that's the hard part. Like you can find anybody that'll paint the fucking thing, but they
Do a good
hopefully
job.
they know what they're doing, you know?
Yeah, dude, that's that's my Achilles heel when it comes to cars. Like I had a buddy who owned a body shop, and when I had my Mark IV R32, I had a buddy, Carlo. Shout out Carlo. He was with all the NFJ guys. He shaved a lot of the main stuff on my car. So the Mark IVs had like the side moldings. He like filled those up, shaved those up. I think he did my rear bumper. But further down, I did more body work to the Mark IV R32. I had a buddy Dave who owned a body shop, and I would go and like help. It was an air cooled. He specialized in air cooled, so he would do like air cooled restorations. So it would be like, hey man, you show up and like sand all these panels for 5 hours, and then we'll like shave the notch in your front R32 bumper or something like that. So like I fucking hate body work. I hate sanding. I hate all that shit.
Well, and the thing is too, like anytime you talk to people that do it, like or have done it in the past or whatever, like they lament it. Like they've been a body guy for X amount of years, and it's like they know what they're doing and they're good at it, but they don't like it.
Yeah, dude, it's so tedious and hard, dude.
Yeah, but the payoff is great. I'm sure. Like if you're good at it and you get it done, and then and it's painted and everything's
it's a fucking
done.
science,
dude. I
dude.
bet you that is like one of the best feelings. Like the aftermath of a real good job that you've done, and it's like how much you fucking put into it, and it's like I'm sure that is totally like a fuck. That
Dude.
like that's such a huge payoff, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, and skilled body guys and painters, especially guys, because there's some like guys who are skilled in the bodywork aspect, and then they can't paint, or that's not their forte. And then there's guys who like don't really body work,
paint,
but
they don't do prep.
Exactly. But to find someone who can do all of them, which my buddy Dave, he taught me a lot of stuff. But fuck, I was like, I always stayed away from doing like after that shit. I was like, fuck, I never want to.
Yeah.
That's why I get all the patina like kind of clapped out Mark I's and Mark IIs and stuff. I find them with those issues because then it makes me not care about the paint because I don't want to have to take care of it.
Less
I don't
worry.
have to detail it. I don't have to fucking, respray the front of my car.
Your green car, if if you put some time into like a real buff job or had somebody out here,
I did a corner of the hood.
dude. I think that thing would look really well, like a good buff job.
Yeah,
and there's a dude that's out here, Eric Elbeck,
Okay.
and he's like a hot rod guy.
Nice.
But he like specializes in like the patina buff jobs and
you
shit.
got to give
out
me
here.
that dude's info.
Get in contact with him
Yeah.
because he'll do a fucking killer job on it. And if you tell him like, whatever, if it burns through, like that kind of
Yeah,
thing,
I don't
like
even-
just
yeah.
let it, just do a hard buff on it so that it's glossy. Like some of the stuff, I'll show you pictures of some of the stuff that he's
Sick.
done. And like he get like patina gloss, like
Dude,
it's fucking gorgeous.
hit me up because that's the plan that I had for that thing.
Perfect.
I wanted
Yeah,
to buff it out and get
I think that's a better route than
Yeah,
like trying
dude.
to get it repainted.
Oh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
I think that color is just not it.
No.
To find someone that's going to be able to pull that color off correct.
Yeah, dude, and it's just
not
like
gonna be easy.
way more work to like respray a car like that, like correctly.
Yeah,
and
all
then
the extra
paint
body.
never
Yeah.
like it looks too new to me. I don't know. It like it doesn't.
There's
I don't
a
know.
there's a time and place for like
Yeah,
a
if I was doing a
correctly
full
resprayed- yeah.
restore, like a full resto,
Yeah,
like fucking
that's when you do it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But for that thing, no, I wanted like that fucking polished patina to where it like
Yes.
brings even all like the surface rust and shit out, but it looks, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
what I wanted. That's definitely
Yeah.
what I want. So I'll get that.
I'll send you his
info.
way. I'll send
Fuck
you his
yeah, dude! I'll have him come over here. You can do it in my garage. Like take all the fucking space you want. I'll drop it off to him.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was definitely the plan for that car. For the Brown Rabbit, that thing's well beyond. We'll go look at it in the garage if you haven't actually looked at it. If it's well beyond.
I've only seen it I've only seen both your cars like one time, I think. Funny, we live 20 minutes apart, and I've only seen your cars
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah. Fuck, that thing's beyond saving. So that thing's just gonna get. That's the shit kicker. That's how it is.
Yeah,
But dude, man, thanks for fucking coming in here and chatting, dude.
Yeah.
It's fucking rad having you, and I've been wanting to get you in here, and I know our schedules are always all mixed up, but I'm finally glad I got you locked down.
Yeah.
You're fresh off the COVID vaccination, man. How you doing with that?
I'm straight.
How you doing with that?
Fine. Second
Fine.
shot.
Cool.
So we're good. Like, I'm ready to party. Like all these people, all these fucking people are like, trying to counterfeit their fucking cards and shit. And it's like, dude, you're the same people complaining about the Mexicans coming over the border and shit like that. And now you're fucking faking your cards so that you can travel. That sounds a little questionable. Maybe you should just go get your fucking shot.
Well, I don't want to get into all that shit, but I'm just happy, even having to go through that, you still showed up and fucking banged out a dope ass podcast with me, dude. So
Yeah.
I'm super stoked for that.
No worries.
Definitely won't be the last because I know you got more stories, and I know I got.
Yeah, I mean, we only got past the Bahn Brenner stage in my life.
Shit,
so
I gotta
that's
flesh
not
out.
very deep.
We gotta do part 2, man, because I gotta flesh out some of that other shit that you got going on and dig more into like the history of the Pacific Northwest scene from your point of view. Because I'm new here, dude. I'm a freshie. I've been here 5 years, but as far as like the history of the Volkswagen stuff up in this little corner of the map, I'm still kind of new on all that. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have what your take was from years past.
Yeah, for sure.
But thanks for doing it again, man.
Yeah,
I
no
appreciate you, dude.
It was a good one.
Take it easy.
Fuck yeah, podcast. Fuck yeah, podcast.